It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
There's something the Dead by Daylight community doesn't like to talk about. And it's not perks, it's not the game's balance, and it's not tunneling, because we already know they love talking about that. It's the fact that one side of this community has mastered something far more powerful than any perk in the game. And that something, I guess you could say, is narrative control. Today, we're going to be talking about the double standards in the Dead by Daylight community and the gaslighting that killer mains experience every single time they try to talk about balance. And the reason I want to bring this up, it's not about an us versus them argument. It's not about trying to villainize anybody. We're simply talking about patterns of what we notice within the community, putting a little spotlight on it, if you will. But let's begin with gaslighting, all right? Because gaslighting isn't just lying, it's trying to convince somebody that what they experienced didn't actually happen. So if you played Killer long enough, you would have seen something like this, either in the endgame chat, whether it be DBD Twitter, DBD forums, any way that people share any of their discussions on DBD, you're probably going to hear this. You're probably going to see something like, just pressure the gens better. If you lost, oh, skill issue. Good killers don't tunnel. Good killers don't camp. Sounds like a skill issue. I don't camp when I play. I don't tunnel when I play. I don't slug when I play. And I want to see if you guys are noticing the pattern here. The experience that these players are going through or never acknowledged is just simply dismissed. To them, it doesn't matter how bad the map was for your killer. To them, it doesn't matter how coordinated the survivor team was. To them, it doesn't matter how much pressure you actually were able to apply. When you're in a match like that, there's really nothing you can do, because the outcome is already set before you even complete the game. Now, another part of this entire thing is that the Dead by Daylight community operates on an invisible rulebook, and killer mains are expected to follow it without question. Killers shouldn't tunnel, killers shouldn't camp, killers shouldn't slug, killers shouldn't run too much slowdown. But survivors are allowed, I mean, even encouraged, if you will, to optimize everything, right? They can run full meta builds. Oh, that's just playing the game. They can they can split the gens 3 ways, right? Have somebody on each gen. That's just playing smart. They have meta perks. Oh, we need that. That's necessary to play. You body block. Oh, now it's just team play. Oh man. Dying under the pallet. Oh, it's a strategy. Getting down in the corner of the map. Oh, I don't want to get hooked. Pre-dropping pallets. Oh, it's just efficiency. And what I find really odd, though, is that the same behavior, right, where we're trying to maximize win conditions, is framed as immoral on one side, but intelligent on the other. So, one of the biggest issues in this game as well with the community that you're really going to see a lot of as well is that they'll say, oh, it's killers are stronger than ever. It's so killer-sided nowadays. But the fact of the matter is it's completely untrue, right? On paper, right? Because I've heard arguments like this say, oh, well, you know, you're the only side that can actually damage somebody. Oh, yeah, you have haste on this, or you have this power, or you have that, or blight exists, or nurse exists. But in practice, we have to keep in mind that that's a lot of nuance that comes down to this. The fact of the matter is, only a few characters in the roster are able to keep up in this current day and age of DBD. Maps are gigantic, right? Survivors are playing even better than they were. They're pushing the gens even more efficiently, right? They're smarter, right? Information is abundant. The tiles are safe, or even safer than they were. Gen efficiency is the highest it's ever been. Well, as of late, and I know they'll have a few that will say, oh, but back then they could instantly pop the gens, and that's fine. But we're talking about, you know, in the current patch, that gens can get done in 23 seconds by themselves. And that should be a bad sign that we're starting to hit ranges of back then when you were able to knock out gens instantly. Either way, saying killers that are stronger than ever while ignoring survivor optimization is like saying a boxer hits harder while never mentioning the other guy learned how to dodge. All right? But here's where the gaslighting becomes systemic, because survivors make up the majority of the player base. So that means that survivor perspectives are going to dominate the discussion spaces, like on Reddit, Twitter, comment sections, DVD forums, whatever people talk about DVD. And unfortunately, that's going to affect the devs' feedback that they receive. And when enough people repeat the same narrative to behavior, it becomes the truth. Tunneling is always bad, they say, right? Camping means you're bad at the game. Killer complaints are exaggerated, they're overtuned, they're overpowered, they're just complaining, they're just whining, yada, yada, yada. And eventually, you're probably not even going to see that many killer mains really trying to give their takes. Not even because they're wrong, but because they're completely outnumbered. But then there's another part of it that comes into this, is fence sitting, that comes into discussions like this. Right? Some big creators are not directly gaslighting, they do something subtler. They'll say stuff like, I don't see these issues personally, my games feel fine, this only happens at extremely high MMR. They always say it's both sides, but you know, they always have to make it about it being both sides. And sure, those statements on paper sound neutral, but they're quietly invalidating experiences that they personally don't have. And my issue also is that we're not applying accountability to people that definitely need it. Just because it can happen on both sides does not mean that both are equally capable every single time. The evidence proves itself. And obviously, when you're sitting on the fence, you're ignoring a lot of accountability and you're ignoring a lot of evidence just so that you can sit on the, oh, but it's not us versus them, I can't have that argument. When you just have, like, the real response should be looking at evidence, looking at what's there. But let's continue where we were, right? Eventually, right? And here's the key part, when we were talking about earlier, when you're a killer main trying to share your experiences, something really happens to those people. They're not really going to continue trying to explain what's going on with their stuff. They're not going to continue trying to debate. They're most likely going to stop offering feedback. They're probably even going to leave the community entirely. They're going to completely quit the game and they're going to move on to greener pastures. Why? Because every conversation follows that same exact response. Explain the issue. Get told it's a skill issue. Get accused of wanting easy wins. Get labeled toxic. You're sweaty. You're this and that. Get better. And it's like, sure, maybe some of those things are true, but that also doesn't mean you don't invalidate that person's experience. At the end of the day, like, the people that are responding in this kind of way are not even taking into account anything they're saying. It's not discourse. Is deflection, because they don't want to actually engage with the topic. They don't want to engage with the actual conversation at hand. But I gotta say this part as well. We gotta preface this. This video is not saying that survivors are evil. What it is saying, though, is that survivors' discourse is completely protected, because acknowledging killer struggle forces these uncomfortable questions, right? It's forcing situations and it's forcing answers to things, and it also creates accountability that they ultimately don't want to have. Because at the end of the day, for some reason, killers always have to improve and adapt, but survivors can completely play exactly the same for 1,000 hours straight. Don't have to improve, don't have to actually get better at the game if they don't even want to. And what are these uncomfortable questions, right? Are the maps too safe? That's a good one. Maybe the maps are a little too big. Maybe the maps have a little bit too many pallets. Maybe main buildings are a little strong. I don't know. Just saying, maybe. But they're scared, right? You start trying to bring that up. Oh, now they're gonna nerf our stuff. We're not gonna be able to get free escapes. What are we gonna do? Is gen speed too high nowadays? Or even is, like, you know, and I constantly have been saying this myself. Is the gen speed a bit too high? Just saying. Is killer agency being sacrificed for survivor enjoyment? That's another question we have, right? And it seems like it. But the gaslighting from the DBD community will allow you to avoid these questions entirely. So, I have to say, from my experience as a high MMR, P100, Ghostface main, top 1% player, I don't expect any sympathy. I don't expect to be given anything. I don't expect to even be understood, because I understand not everybody's playing a low tier. Not everybody is trying to learn how to play at a high level. They're not trying to learn how to, improve with their main, or even play a low tier main to even be able to win consistently. I know that's not a common thing. But what I am expecting is at least a level of honesty from the DBD community to some extent, right? Instead of the gaslighting we see from the community, right? When you lose despite your correct reads, your strong pressure, and optimal play, I don't want to be told that it didn't happen, and I don't want other people to be told that it didn't happen. I want the conversation to start there, not end there. Because to me, I think that's an important aspect that we need to keep in mind here. I think that that is a key component in this conversation that we're not even taking into account. Right? Because there's a lot of different aspects that come into this, right? The fact of the matter is that even in a lot of cases, when you are playing a killer, you're playing extremely well. You are inevitably going to be punished for things that are completely out of your control. Gen speed is simply not something you can control. Despite how quickly you can down people, despite how quickly you're able to even get to those gens, you're still gonna end up losing something. You're still gonna end up taking a massive loss. And this is more so for the lower tiers, because they just simply do not have the mobility and things like that. And that's its own thing, right? I mean, that's its own topic. We can go on and on and on about that. And unfortunately, there's a lot of aspects to this that are important as well. And that's mainly what I want to kind of spotlight when it comes down to this kind of conversation, is the fact that ultimately there's a gigantic disconnect, not only from the S tier killers to the low tier killers, but also a gigantic disconnect from what survivor players are playing and experiencing versus what killer players are playing and experiencing, considering that it almost seems as if one side really requires you to use your brain, understand the game intimately, be able to counter things very well, and another side happens to have perks that gives them a reward for losing, gives them a reward for playing badly, gives them a reward for not even using their brains or strategizing. And it's pretty obvious to see which is which, unfortunately. So the main purpose, obviously, of this conversation is that DBD is not suffering from balance problems. It's suffering from a narrative imbalance, right? Because one side is automatically believed by default, right? And that's probably because there are so many of survivor players, right? So inevitably they go, oh, I was tunneled, therefore everyone believes them, right? But that's when you have to look between the lines, and that's why I've been even reading those forum posts and showing them to you guys to kind of show you guys these people are not speaking in good faith. They're not speaking with logic or anything like that. They're all mad at the game that they apparently are supposed to like, and they want to rant and get things nerfed when they don't need to be. You know what I mean? And that's the point. That's the point. That's the purpose. That's what we want to talk about today. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well in the comment section, what you think is about this topic as well. I know I kind of covered a couple different things within this video. I mean, it was like a little bit all over the place. And hopefully you guys maybe can give your perspective on it. Maybe you guys are probably aware of this. And let me know what you think in the comment section, of course, man. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know if you agree or disagree. And if you've even had experiences where you kind of see the sort of double standard going on with this game. Have you seen or even had similar messages where people tried to discount what you have to say? I'm curious. But that's really the point that I want to make here. And I'm also curious if you guys are enjoying the gameplay in the background. Of course, I am playing a little bit of Clown. And for those of you that might want to see the end of the match, I'm gonna let the rest of the gameplay kind of be here. I'll probably yap a little bit, adding a couple little points to what I've said. Just for those of you that want to hear a little bit extra, because I think this is a topic that really matters a lot. I mean, it also ties a little bit into killer anxiety as well, I think. Because people are even being told that their experience doesn't really matter as a killer player. And, you know, the main purpose of trying to bring up this topic and bring up this stuff is really the idea that it is to show that you're not alone in that situation. You're not alone in experiencing you know, killer anxiety, for example. You're not alone in this community where you are probably going to get gaslit. You probably are going to hear a lot of just nonsense. And like I've said, like, the goal isn't entirely to say it's an us versus them situation, as much as they will try to gaslight you into thinking it is. At the end of the day, from what I've at least noticed, if you're not speaking the same exact language, you're not saying the same exact thing that they believe, automatically they think it's an attack. You know what I mean? And that's just what I've noticed. That's just what I've seen. Because that's just the facts, right? I mean, I've seen it before. You call out these players for being toxic. You call out these people for these things because you realize, like, yo, this isn't really fair. Like, this isn't really right. You know, especially like if you guys were familiar with the video talking about like the bully squads situation. My entire point was, maybe this shouldn't be in the game because we literally have a killer anxiety problem. We have a killer anxiety problem. We have an issue with one particular side that wants to bully lower, like, you know, low hour players, like people that just installed the game, like, and they're playing killer and they don't know what's going on, and then they have to deal with a bully squad. Like, how is that fair to them? Like, they don't even know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, something like that. And I'll probably have that linked at the end of this one. Talk a little bit more about that. But yeah. That's just a part of, I guess you could say it's a part of it. And I just find it really strange that nobody talks about it. I don't know, right? But that's what we're here to try to do. We're trying to put a little bit of a spotlight on it. And like I've said, you know, I'm curious to see your thoughts on it. And that is going to be the end of the video, of course. You guys got the full gameplay. I will see you guys in the next one, consider supporting the channel by becoming a member on Patreon or YouTube and get access to exclusive stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. I wanted to go ahead and thank all my members from Patreon, Crow King 101, YouTube members, Majora Jeff, T.O.N. Dyer, Zero Mocker, Christian, Crow Vader, Noxus, Jack, Dole, a whip. Let's go. Twitch. We also have Cake, Danica, Final Girl Bunny, Zero Mocker, Ginsburg, Zaz, Crow, PB Head, Mr. Mork, and Dole as well. I appreciate all you guys for supporting, and I will see you guys. If you want to become a member, go ahead and join, and I will see you guys in the next one.